Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today we're going to go over the AMA on Reddit that Judd held with the community. There were some great questions on there, as well as some insight into the future for Last Epoch. One of those things being that we know multiplayer is coming with 9.0, but no one knows how far away that is. Most of us have guessed that it's probably going to come at the very end of the year now, and we do have an official announcement that 8.3 will be the next patch after 8.2 this Monday, which means that 9.0 and multiplayer is at least 2 patches away, meaning that even at their smallest interval of 2 months per patch, we're looking at least a minimum of another 4 months from this Monday, which would put us all the way into October. Me personally, I have a feeling it's not going to come until probably end of November, early December, but that's just my opinion on that. But let's go ahead and get into this AMA and go over some of the things that were talked about. And there will be a link to this AMA in case you didn't even know about it and you were hoping to read through. There were a lot of questions asked and a lot of answers, and some of them have been things that have kind of been discussed in some of the developer streams that have been going on. But we're going to go ahead and go over these. So again, this was written by Judd, who is the game developer, the head honcho of EHG and Last Epoch. And let's start off with a little bit of history. So Last Epoch started as an after-hours project that myself and a few other action RPG fanatics would pour all of our free time into. I am reading this as first person, so I'm kind of pretending to be Judd as I read this, just go with it. Within 12 months, we were able to launch our Kickstarter campaign, which raised just over $250,000. This would allow me to officially bring in a few team members full-time and begin laying the foundation for what EHG would become. Since then, I've been able to hire over 50 full-time amazing individuals from around the world. This includes people from the United States, Canada, Brazil, Australia, Russia, and many other countries in between. As a result of the team's passion and energy, we made it into the Steam's top seller list multiple times while still being in early access and self-publishing for an indie game. That is amazing. That just tells you how bright of a future that Last Epoch has. There's proof if you want to click the link. I already know, no need to click it. I'm excited to sit down with all of you to answer questions and discuss Last Epoch and the game studio, 11th hour games, and everything behind it. So let's go ahead and get into that first question. Right off the bat, we got my man Lizard IRL asking the first question, getting the first answer, and he says, first of all, hello Judd, thanks for doing this AMA. My question is about a statement that you made in your last AMA, which is a really long time ago. The quote from the original AMA was, "I will not let our game become a movement skill, screen wide kill, movement skill, screen wide kill, repeat." And if any of you have played PoE, you know exactly what that sentence means. If you notice this happening in the future, copy, paste this, comment to me, and I will ensure that it gets fixed. And with the rogue being implemented, this has kind of become a thing. You use a movement skill, you go with shift and you use Shadow Cascade with the Shadow Daggers, and it turned into a movement speed. Use a big AoE, kill the entire screen, and repeat. And, well, Lizard was on top of it, posted it on there, and the answer that we got back from him was, "Hey Lizard, the team and I are committed to this game design goal and will continue to look at player toolkits to ensure that when you are challenging appropriately scaled content, that this is not the case. Don't worry, harder challenges are on the way. See you in game." And if many of you know, Shadow Daggers, while as effective as it is, it's not going to one-shot bosses. Bosses, especially in empowered content, becomes much more difficult, and the game slows down, and you're really in combat for a much longer period of time. And it looks like we're going to continue going down that way, where boss fights are going to be epic. You're going to have to dodge mechanics, and the game slows down when you get to boss fights. As for getting to the boss fights, didn't really say anything about it not becoming a movement skill slash screen wide kill, but of course as mobs get more HP and scale higher, that becomes less of a thing. And I think everyone here who's probably watching this has seen or played with Shadow Dagger. Before we continue on with question number 2, I just want to give a shout out. How cool is it that the director of EHG, that the CEO, and that most of the members inside of EHG who are in Discord are always communicating with their community? How awesome is it that they sit down for an entire day and answer any question that you could possibly want to ask? How cool is it that when you have questions in Discord that there's always somebody responding? They are under the gun right now. They have, pressure to get these patches out, to get the game launched to 1.0, to get multiplayer out this year. They are under the gun. There is some heavy pressure going on, and yet they still take the time to make sure that they are communicating with the community. And that's just a big shout out. I mean, it's absolutely awesome. So I just had to make sure we threw that into this. Question number 2 comes from Foe. Hello, Judd. What kind of steps is 11th Hour Games taking to ensure multiplayer will have a smooth launch? Will there be more than enough server capacity to ensure that people who wish to play can log in without having an 8-hour, or in the case of Wilson, a 2-day login queue / delay / server down can't play type situation? And Judd answered, learning from those that came before us, i.e. Wilson. There's been a lot of hiccups after releasing server authoritative multiplayer, and there's plenty of information on what issues have occurred, so we're taking into account how we can avoid to make the same mistakes. Now, I don't know if it's usually a coding mistake, but I think for the most part, a lot of games are not ready and did not anticipate as many players coming onto their server and just get overloaded right off the bat when it launches. And I think that EHG knows that they're looking to be a top game, and I think that they know that they're expecting 150,000 people plus on launch day. I would be very surprised if the number was any lower than that. We saw Wilson go from almost nothing to having 127,000 people through Steam log into their game on day 1, which was way more than they anticipated, and their servers could not handle it. So we know EHG is working on it, and they're also doing some other things to help prepare for it. Those being ensuring that multiplayer is not released before it's ready, making sure that it's going to work properly. We're very excited to launch it, but we don't want to do it before it's stable, enjoyable, and where it should be. And they have other things in the works. Working with consultants and engineers from the AAA space that have developed this for very popular titles. And then of course there's testing, scale testing, and more testing. And as many of you know, if not all of you, there is a community tester program out there with many people in it already that are probably already playing multiplayer and at least testing the very basics of it. And there will be many more people probably invited to that, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they did kind of just a very short 1-day public launch of the private test server, just to have as many people as possible just log into it to make sure it works before the official launch of 9.0. I'm not saying that will happen. What I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised. I would think it would be a good thing for them to do that. They actually did it a while back where they opened up a private test server for anybody who wanted to log in when they were having login issues, and they did it for like 1 or 2 days. It was just over a weekend thing. I could definitely see them just doing like a 6-hour run where they say, hey, everybody who's at their computer, please log into this server so we can just cram as many people into it as possible. Of course, since it's not the official launch, you're not going to get as many people as you would on the day, but hopefully they get enough heavy traffic that they can see the load on their servers and make sure that it's as prepared as it possibly can be ready for it. And question number 3 coming in from Quiet For Me. The biggest downfall to most ARPGs is visual clutter. How are you going to keep everything visible for high-end content without player-made skills or enemy skills making the player lose accessibility and vision on the battlefield? Accessibility question. Is there a timetable for colorblind and other forms of accessibility options that have been talked about in the past? P.S. Love you, and last Epoch, keep up the great work. Thanks for your time. And I'm pretty sure that P.S. comes from everybody. And the answer, visual clutter is something that we talk about a lot. That's bolded because it comes up a lot. This genre is predisposed to the issue, so we make sure to bring it up constantly and make sure that our visual artists are thinking about it when they make skill effects and effects on and for enemies. You'll see a lot of visual be a bit snappier and lighter weight in the near future as we're testing the game in multiplayer much more now, which unveils where problem areas are. And that hint right there is why I think that the community testers are already playing multiplayer, or at least the basics, is because they say they're testing it more. But it could just be EHG. That's just something that I feel is going on. My own personal opinion. We're excited to bring accessibility improvements, and now that we've got our legs and content in a place where people are enjoying it, we can start to prioritize it. We have plenty of UI mockups for what this will look like, and thanks for the kind words. And UIs are not only going for visuals, but the UI themselves for the interface of the game are getting huge mockups. We've already done a video on that, but you saw in 8.2, everything is going to look a lot cleaner and better. Question number 4 is coming in from French Salad LE. It's such a pleasure being involved with LE in its early days. Very excited to see how the game progresses. Can you share any provisional details on trading in multiplayer? Or perhaps information about the principles guiding your thoughts on trading? In the Kickstarter, there was a mention of a bazaar with gold, and in one of the last dev streams it was mentioned that in-game trading will be unlike anything we've ever seen in other games. But I'm keen to understand the principles that guide your choices with regards to trading. I can appreciate this question may be jumping the gun, but I'm super interested in your thoughts on this. And then we got an answer. Some goal designs we have for trading are, don't ruin the chase. Important one. We want people to be excited about going into the world, killing monsters, and having the chance to get great upgrades. We don't want third-party websites where you go in, you pay some real money, or you pay in-game gold, or you trade items for all the best items for a character and not experience what it's like to have to go out there and actually find them yourself. We want to bring people into the same space so it feels like a living, breathing world. So the bazaar will be a marketplace. All of us will be in a giant hub. It's going to be a place where you not only just talk to people, but you're going to visually see them, and preferably, I think it was even worded before that everyone would have their own shops set up to where you're actually like clicking on people to see their goods. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, but like they said, it's going to be something we've never seen before. So I'm curious exactly what it will be like when it comes. And then third, don't build a system where people feel like they need to go to outside of the game to be efficient. And for that, we're talking about third-party websites. PoE is like this a lot. You've got to go see what the currency is, what's for sale, who's got it, if they're online. You got to do instant messaging. By the time it's just a mess, and no one likes it. You want to be interactive with the people who are in the game live. That's the best way to play, and it looks like that's the direction that they're going for, is to keep you in the game. And if any of you have noticed, the loot filter is one of those things that does that. The loot filter was made so you would not need a third-party program. You wouldn't even load it in from somewhere else. Granted that you can borrow other people's, loot filters, and you do have to copy those in, which is usually shared through a third party, but you yourself can make your own loot filter super easily, all in game. No third party, and they're very much behind the principle of keeping you in the game and interacting in the game and not through other parties. Our fifth question is a quick question, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I apologize in advance, but it's from Shatuffin, and this one has to do with, do you intend to offer short-term leagues, and if so, what kind of release cadence do you expect for league content? Now, right off the bat, I remember them saying that we were going to be running cycles that would be off-centered from both PoE and Diablo 3. However, the answer here was a little bit further away from what I thought it was. And his response was, we do. Epoch Seasons Leagues will be called cycles. We're currently looking at a 4 to 5 month cadence for these, but we'll need to release a couple to find out what works best for the game and the community. And that's much longer cycle than I thought. I thought we were looking at like a 3-month cycle, but now it looks like it could be a 4 or 5 month. But again, they said it's up in the air. They're not 100% sure, and they're going to release a couple to see what works best. I would also assume that the first ones that they do might be a bit longer because their team will still be growing and they're still going to have a lot of stuff to do. And they're going to have a lot of hot fixes, things like that, that they're probably going to be doing right off the bat, and not so much working on what's going to be in that first cycle or second cycle. As the team grows, things become easier for them to do. They get a pattern, they find out what works best. I would assume maybe it would come back to that 3-month cycle that you see in a lot of other games, such as PoE and Diablo 3. 5 months seems like a really long time to go without new content or a new cycle, but maybe they even plan on releasing some stuff in the middle of that or something. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a good question, and it was not the answer that I was expecting when I read it. For question number 6, this is where we found out officially, or at least I found out officially, that 8.3 would be the next patch after 8.2, and it would not be 9.0. The question comes from PhoenixFire232. Hello, Judd. Sorry if this has been asked already, but is there a time frame when some skill trees will receive spec trees? Me and a friend have been wanting to do a detonate dead based build. There is no specialization for it last time I saw. Thanks. And they answer, hey Phoenix, luckily a number of our devs that usually work on skill trees will have quite a bit more time to work on skills again in the 0.83 cycle. And there's your confirmation that 8.3 will be the next patch. So we should be filling those out even more quickly. Alright, and the 7th and final question that I'm going to cover is also going to give you a little insight to Judd's life. The question comes from, and I'm going to butcher this, Oraria? Hey Judd, absolutely loving the game and the minion shenanigans. What's your favorite hobby outside of gaming? On topic question, will set items be buffed in the future? A single rare can replace and prove 3 or 4 times more value of an entire set. And Judd responded, my favorite hobby outside of gaming is playing with and raising my kids and spending time with my wife. I have 3 kids, ages 4, 7, and 11. That are awesome, and anytime I'm not developing Last Epoch and EHG, I'm spending with them. I involve them in EHG as much as I can as well. I recently put a standing desk next to me with a laptop so they can play Last Epoch and other games next to me during the day. That's nice, and I know that he's mentioned it before. I think in the interview that I did with him before, he mentioned how his kids can find things that only kids can do, and it helps them debug the system a little bit. We will definitely be releasing more exciting and powerful set items. The number of set items have fallen behind uniques just due to their design complexities and the number of supporter uniques we're creating. We have a big old sheet of set ideas that we're excited to work through. Now, while I do hope that more sets are invited and invested into in Last Epoch, I do not want to see sets become something that are mandatory. While I would like to see some sets that can compete with endgame builds, and there are some out there that can, I don't want to see them become the best in slot, and I would never want to see them come anywhere close to the power that you can get with exalted items, just because they would become meta and then it would be boring. We all know what happened to Diablo 3. Anyways, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. We got through 7 good questions with 7 good answers. Hope you guys learned something that maybe you didn't know. And again, for like the 5th time, this will be linked below. So if you want to read through it, there are like 100 questions that you can go through and see answers to. Again, some of them are repetitive, but I am sure that you will learn something. And as always, stay safe, travelers, and see you guys in 8.2.